In any case, the media continue on their dual narratives of, one, the police are bad, and two, this is all about race. So Sarah Haynes, the View is just a repository of all the lowest IQ humans on the planet, apparently. So Sarah Haynes said that we can talk about racism because the race of the officers does not matter. All the officers in this particular case, of course, were black. It is only the race of the victim that matters.
Oh, God. I wonder if it gets hard sometimes to be a conservative where you like routinely have to avoid looking at all of the facts of a situation where like everyone is basically saying the same thing in unison, which is that like, and they're correctly saying this, by the way, which is that the police as an institution is acting out in a white supremacist way. Therefore, it doesn't matter if a cop is black or not, because black cops are brutal historically and in contemporary society. They have always been brutal. Okay. They're just as brutal, if not sometimes more brutal, according to James Baldwin, than white cops. That doesn't mean that they're more brutal in general, but it doesn't matter. They're cops. Okay? They're cops. This is never about the individual. This is not about the individual. This is about a systemic problem. This is about what the police are designed to do. But of course, they never, ever, ever, ever want to talk about that. They don't want to undermine that point. They don't even want to discuss it. They just immediately rush to, oh, everyone is talking about how these cops are black and it doesn't matter. Yeah, I wonder why it doesn't matter. Well, let's not talk about it.
Which is quite bizarre, since if you're going to claim white supremacy, typically white people are supposed to be involved in a claim of white supremacy, but apparently only the victim matters. You can still claim white supremacy so long as the victim is black. It does not matter who killed him. So presumably every gangland violence shooting in Chicago is the result.
What the Wait, first of all, yes, every gang shooting in Chicago is unironically a product of a white supremacist system. Yes, that is true. Unless you believe the inverse of that, which is that like black people are just unhinged and unruly and genetically predisposed to violence, which Ben Shapiro does believe, by the way. He does literally believe that. He just can't say it, because if he said it, then he would not be considered an intellectual. Everyone would understand him for the racist that he is. So he can't cross that line. Steven Crowder often crosses that line because he recognizes that his audience is really stupid, and sometimes you got to really hammer in that point. But that's it. Ben won't cross that line, obviously. But that's it. What do you mean? Well, why is gang violence a permanent fixture? I wonder why. Which, by the way, like as far as violence goes, it's not like Chicago is the most violent city or Illinois is the most violent state. You know what I mean? There are plenty of more violent red states out there as well. Now, of course, you have to understand that violence is caused by material conditions. This has been something that is studied and been talked about since ancient Greece, okay? Ancient Greeks were talking about like, oh, well, you know, it does seem like socioeconomic conditions contribute to violence greatly. But Ben still in 2023 is like, that's not true. That doesn't happen. It's actually because every individual is bad. They're just boo-boo people. They're bad. They're mean. They're meanie bobinis. That's why they're doing it. And of course, somehow it's always black people that are being mean and bad and aggressive.
Of white supremacy. This is one of these broad arguments that is beautiful for the left because it involves no actual outcome. You don't actually have to achieve a policy solution. You just blame white supremacy out there in the ether for all the bad problems on the ground. And then all of your policy prescriptions magically amount to radical leftist diversity, equity, and inclusion nonsense, saying something very silly.
So silly. Dude, you're a villain, dude. Like, conservative propaganda has basically turned into like being like a villain in a child textbook. You know what I mean? Like in a La Fontaine story, you're the villain, you know? Like, imagine advocating for sharing and equity. What a laughable notion. I hate equity. Why do we never like stop to be like, dude, what are you saying? Like, that seems insane to say. Why don't you feel uncomfortable just openly stating that you're a bad person? You are the villain in every story.